What if the single quality that separates those who live bold and free from those who merely exist isn't talent, brains, or luck, but bravery? The dictionary calls bravery the quality of being ready to face and endure danger or pain. But let's be clear, it's not about charging into a burning building or climbing mountains. Bravery is much more about facing the fire in your own life, the confrontation you've avoided, the dream you've shelved, maybe the truth that you've silenced. Without bravery, leaders shrink into micromanagers, teams are paralyzed by fear, and lives get stuck in the safe zone. But what if fear becomes fuel, stagnation becomes momentum, and ordinary people become the kind of leaders and humans who actually change things? That's the subject we're going to be brave enough to grab onto in this episode. The raw, the necessary, the life-altering power of bravery. Hey, my friends, welcome back to the Uncommodified Podcast. I'm Tim Windsor, and today my guest on the show is Jill Schulman. Jill, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this conversation to talk all about bravery.
Oh, this
And
is going to be a lot of fun.
uh,
I can tell right already. I'm getting ready we got our drinks ready. We'll talk about that in a second. But
yeah.
let me a little bit about Jill for those of you who don't know Jill. Jill is a U.S. Marine Corps veteran, expert in the science of bravery, who combines evidence-based research with real-world experience, which is important to me, to help individuals and teams embrace courage, push beyond limits, achieve great performance, and do it in a way that they can be whole and well at the end of the day. That's good.
Mm.
Her new book, just recently released, The Bravery Effect, a parable teaching the science of conquering fear, achieving more, and living life to the fullest, provides practical tools for developing a courageous mindset, taking bold action, and building brave relationships. Now,
Mm.
every great conversation, even brave conversations for me, Jill, start with a really great drink. So what are you drinking tonight?
My husband got me hooked on Negroni.
Oh, Negroni. Yeah, that's a
Are
good
you a
one.
fan? Yeah.
I'll tell you what I did. I brought out a bottle from my wine cellar of a
Mm.
really nice Cab Franc, which I like. It's actually a Niagara wine from Canada, and it's from a private winery. Great chef, beautiful wine. So, cheers to you,
Cheers.
and cheers to a great conversation.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
We were just in Italy with the family to Italy and spent some time in Tuscany and learning all about Italian wine. And of course, anytime you go wine tasting, I always like ship cases of it back. So we're enjoying that wine that we had shipped back and learned all about Chianti and Sangiovese.
Oh,
It's delish. Mm.
I love a good Chianti. I never really met a red wine I didn't like, so it's just the way
I
it is.
thought you were going to say redhead, so red
No,
wine is
no, 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 no. Listen, that's a different podcast. Listen, I'm not brave enough. Okay. We haven't spoken enough for me to brave enough to say that. So
Ah,
I'm going to steer clear of that one. We're not
I
going to
love
go
it.
there. All right. Listen, all great conversations for me start off with some questions. So
Mhm.
you've written this book, you're on this journey. My first question is, why this book and
Mm,
why now for you? And
mm,
why is this subject so important based on
yeah,
your worldview and your experience within
mm.
the business community and the world you live in?
Yeah, I'm just gonna talk I'm just gonna be so real with you, probably because I have a drink in my hand here.
Perfect.
What I have seen is that I think the world has the pendulum has swung a little bit too much in one direction where we think that the key to success and happiness is ease and comfort.
Mm,
And I see sometimes the world through the eyes of our younger generation specifically. My youngest daughter is going off to college, so we're going to be empty nesters, but I just see the world sometimes through their viewpoint. And I think they feel, and a lot of our workers in the workplace feel the same way. Like, I just want an easy job and I want obstacles to be taken away. I want to make all this money to not do a lot and always be comfortable. And people think that is the road to happiness.
mm,
And being the scientist that I am, I like to look at the research. So, a little bit about my background. Yeah, I started as a Marine. I was in corporate America for 25 years, like leading teams mainly in the pharmaceutical industry, doing leadership development. So, I know how to drive business results. But then I became very curious about 5 years ago about the intersection of positive psychology, believe it or not, and the workplace.
mm.
Like, what, so I don't know if you ever heard of Sean Aker. Someone sent me his TEDx. And it kind of rocked me at the core where Sean Aker was saying, like, most people wait until they accomplish a goal and then they're happy, but really they've got it backwards. We have to generate positive emotions, which is the rocket fuel to achieve your goals. And I was like, whoa, there's something to this. I hear a lot about culture. I'm teaching leaders how to motivate. And I just kind of became obsessed and read everything I could get my hands on in positive psychology and said, wow. And there's an application of how positive psychology can be put in the workplace. And so then I ended up deciding to study it. So I applied to Penn, somehow got in, I don't know. And I studied under the father of positive psychology, Marty Seligman. And as I learned about positive psychology, I realized that there's so much more to elevating our happiness and well-being than I ever thought before.
Hmm.
I think for a lot of us, we think like, oh, happiness it's happy clappy. It's happyology. You just want to be happy all the time. But then when you actually study, this is the scientific study of elevating happiness and well-being in individuals, teams, organizations, and societies. When you really look at the data, right, that positive emotions is part of it, but it's about 1/5. There's other things. So and I could just go over them quickly. There's an acronym. It's called PERMA. It's Marty Seligman's like seminal research. The 5 things for us to take control of our happiness and well-being are P in PERMA is positive emotions. So that's what Sean Aker talks about, right? The E in PERMA stands for engagement. This comes from Csikszentmihalyi, where he talks about getting into the flow state, right, in work or in hobbies, etc. Then R stands for relationships. Quality of relationships. M stands for meaning. We have to have meaning in life. And A stands for accomplishment.
Hmm.
Now, here's where I'm getting to bravery here. It's a very long road to why bravery and why now. So, one of the 5 absolutely evidence-based ways to elevate our happiness and well-being is to accomplish meaningful things, to do hard things, because it feels so great to accomplish them. And what holds people back
Hmm.
from setting bold goals? To sometimes have the hard conversation that can enhance relationships. I mean, what I discovered in my research, it is fear. And fear controls us if we let it. It makes decisions if we're going to chase a dream or abandon it. It's going to decide, do we have the difficult conversation or do we just avoid it to stay comfortable? There's so much impact of how fear controls our lives, our careers at work. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is the antidote? What
Hmm.
is the antidote? How do we overcome fears? And that's how I stumbled upon bravery and said, you know what? This is what we need to be teaching. I feel like in schools, in the workplace, et cetera, like we're teaching people the skill, like, oh, here's how to do the technical skill, but we're not teaching people how to be brave, how to speak up with the game-changing idea, how to have the difficult conversation, how to set bold goals, how to go after maybe a promotion they want. I mean, just imagine for a moment if every one of those moments, they've got a choice
Hmm.
to be brave, which is step forward in the presence of fear toward doing what they want to do, but it's scary, or they choose to always step back, which is what's the opposite of bravery? It's cowering.
Oh, yeah.
So we
We don't
have all
want.
these little decisions. And imagine the impact to someone's business if everyone in the workplace was always playing it safe. And imagine the impact if a team of people in an organization, everyone learned the skills of being bold and brave. And now bravery is defined as voluntary action in the presence of fear toward a meaningful or noble goal.
Hmm.
And at work, we have meaningful, noble goals and what we do for our customers. And I think bravery is it's the one missing piece. And I think we're just getting softer where we need to get a little bit tougher, a little bit braver to do hard things. So there's my very long answer to a simple question.
Well, first of all, that is a great answer, and it's got me thinking about 1,000 things. But what
Mm,
I really find fascinating, it's bravery in the presence of or the face of fear, which is
yes.
very interesting because I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, if I think about my own experience in life and leadership and business consulting and all this thing, is that I think people are waiting for fear to be abated, to subside, and then that's the trigger to wanna go forward. Bravery is moving forward,
Mm,
stepping in and
yes.
stepping up in the face and the presence
Yes.
of palpable fear,
Yes.
which is really interesting because I think maybe that's cultural. We go back to our culture. I think that the idea of bravery has been stripped by our culture because we have managed our lives where we're trying to eradicate all fear.
Yeah. Exactly, because we wanna be comfortable. So, you're right, there's a couple of misconceptions around bravery. Number 1 is people think it's a trait that is reserved for heroes,
Right.
that you're just born with. Not true. It's a learnable, practicable skill. I have all the evidence behind it. Like, just like you can build a muscle, you
Hmm.
can build your bravery. And then the second thing is, yeah, people think that bravery is being fearless. And that's not what it is. It is about taking the step in the presence of fear. And you're exactly right. People think, I'm just going to wait until I feel more ready. And it's disguised with this, like, you know what? It's just not the right time. When you say it's not the right time, you want to do something, but you're scared and you're not willing to take the step forward. So many times we either stall or we wait so long to take the step, which has an impact. Imagine the impact in a workplace if you have the idea and you implement it that week versus waiting 2 years, right? Or in your life, you want to do something different, go after a goal, and you just keep waiting. So many times people wait too long or they never take the step at all. And then that leads to a life of regret.
Hmm.
You want to look back at your life and go, there's all these things I wanted to do, but I never did it. Why? I was just waiting. So I'm just agreeing with you. Um, the definition of bravery is taking a step forward in the presence of fear. So if you're
Hmm.
feeling scared, not ready, not confident yet, that's the way you're supposed to feel if you're being brave.
You
Mhm.
know, I like, and again, if you're listening in, I always say, listeners, you're listening for a reason. So here's the first thing I'm hearing Jill say, which is really important. So feel the fear and embrace it because it's the thing that invites you into that brave moment. Don't
Mm,
expect it to be abated or lessened because in fact, the motivation to be brave
totally.
probably is equated to the fear that we feel, which I really find interesting. Now, one of the challenges I think when I think of myself being brave and um, I think I'm a rather brave person by nature.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think I have some skills and some things I've learned, but I also not sure where bravery starts and stops and recklessness
Mm,
sort of
yeah.
gets in my way. So, how do
Mhm.
we figure that out? Because sometimes my bravery, or what I think has been brave, has been seen as recklessness by
Mhm.
certain people in my family, my mother, my
Yeah.
children, my wife,
Mm,
my business partners.
mhm.
So, is there a difference, and how can we know
Let's
where
answer
the
that.
difference lies?
Yeah, let's answer that. So, first of all, when we feel fear, sometimes it is good to listen to it
Right.
because it is telling us about danger. And for anyone who has let fear control them or they've hesitated because of fear, I just want your audience to know that it's not your fault.
Uh,
It's because that's the way we're biologically wired.
uh,
Back in our evolutionary roots, right? Fear is what kept us alive. When we backed away from the cliff, when we ran away from the saber-toothed tiger. I mean, this is really kind of how we're wired. And then, of course, modern culture doesn't help things because everyone talks about like anything that makes you uncomfortable or anxious, we should run away from.
mhm.
Um, Now, fear, though, it can be a sign of danger sometimes. If I am traveling to a city I've never been to before
Yeah.
and I go to dinner and I'm like, I just want to take a walk back to my hotel because I like taking a walk after dinner and it's a dangerous city and I feel some fear, I probably should listen to that because maybe there is some danger. But most of the time, the fear that we feel is social fear. It's fear of failure, fear of rejection. So usually it's that social fear. Now, here's the interesting thing. So I can't answer when it's reckless or not. It depends for each person because fear is very personal. What
Mm,
is scary to you may not be scary for me or vice versa. Right? I mean, it's very personal. And what you talk about, sometimes the people around us, they think we're being reckless because they don't necessarily agree that taking that step or they're scared. They're letting fear control them. So I want to use a real tangible example. I decided at one point to leave corporate America. I had I had I had a 401k, I had benefits, I had a really great salary, great bonuses. I had all these great things, was moving up in this company. And I decided that I was going to leave all this money and stability and start my own business. Now, we've got to be careful when we want to make the brave move, right? So for me, it was a meaningful, noble goal.
mhm.
I wanted to create my own business. because I wanted to control how much I traveled. There might have been an occasion where my daughter came home from kindergarten with a picture of the family and I wasn't in it.
Hmm.
That might have happened, right? So I'm like, I want to control my own schedule. So I had this meaningful, noble goal, and that's the reason why I want to go there. But the loved ones around me are like, what are you doing? Don't do that. That's too risky. So the people that love me the most were just trying to keep me safe. So I understand that. Um, However, if we're confident and we want to be brave, one of the things that we sometimes need to do is we need to mitigate the risk in ways that make maybe us feel more secure, but also can make our family and loved ones. So, one of the ways that we can do that is we can surround ourselves with what I call the brave tribe. Who
Hmm.
are other people? So, I had to find other people that had done what I did. I was doing leadership development in support of a Fortune 100 company. I was in charge of that for their biggest brand. And I wanted to go out and start my own leadership development company. Now, if I have no idea what I'm doing and just make a leap and don't know what's on the other side, it's like jumping off of a cliff into water and you don't know what's at the bottom. That is reckless.
Yeah.
So we need to do our research, right? So I talked to many people that had left corporate America, started their own businesses, and I had to come up with a plan. It's like doing a little recon and figuring out, like, if I'm going to jump off this cliff, I already know that it's deep, it's safe. I'm going to take the jump. I feel confident it's going to be okay. Right, but we also have to care you have to be careful who you listen to and who you surround yourself with.
Hmm.
So for me, I wanted to go in that direction, and I had to surround myself with the people who have done it before and then they'd say to me this, like, "My family felt the same way. I get it. Here's the mistakes I made." So when you surround yourself with people who have taken the brave action you are seeking, that is gonna make you feel more safe. It's also gonna make your family feel more safe because then you can say, here's 5 other people that are mentoring me. I've surrounded myself. They've all made the great transition and look at where they are now. Makes them feel a little bit better, but it also helps you because the journey's not going to be easy. And you might have a setback and you need people that you can lean on to help you. So
Yeah.
it's one of the strategies I talk about in my book is, trying to be brave. I have a lot of strategies that come from cognitive and behavioral psychology to help us take the brave move. But an easier way is surround yourself with the right people and listen to the right people. There are always going to be people in your life that are going to say, don't do it. Stay safe. Just stay in the boring rut of a lane that you have because that is comfortable and it feels safe, right? You're always going to have those people. And if
Hmm.
you listen to them and you surround yourself with the same people that don't feel comfortable being brave and don't want to get out of it, it's trying to like run uphill with wind in your face with a parachute if everyone around you is saying don't do it. So you've got to be intentional. I call it curating a brave tribe.
Hmm.
You've got a goal. I want to write a book. This is what I just did. I wanted to write a book, right? I found 3 incredible mentors that have written books before, and listening to them and connecting with them on a regular basis is what gave me the bravery to do it, right? So I hope that answers it. Like,
No, it's
mhm,
a great model, and what I like about it, it's really simple. So what you're saying is, it's bravery in the presence of fear.
mhm,
It's taking action towards a noble goal, which I think is
mhm.
important. It's kind of interesting because in my world, this uncommodified world that I sort of live in and play in, I talk about this idea of being uncommodified for the positive benefit of others
Yes.
and myself. So the caveat is for the positive benefit of others and myself,
Mhm.
because we can be uncommodified. We can live in this uncommodified state of being different and not, shaking off what I call the evil spell of sameness. But if it's not towards a noble, in this case, a noble
Yeah,
end, the positive
exactly.
benefit of
Mhm.
ourselves and others, we can use that as certain license to do lots of things that are not so wonderful.
Mm,
So I love the framework here, but this idea of curating a brave community or tribe is
mm.
powerful. And again, if you're listening in, if you're looking at taking a brave step, what a great place to start. Find some people who you can borrow some bravery from that
Yeah.
can affirm this as a wise and brave move, and
Yes.
then move into whatever this thing is, whether it's in business, whether it's in
Yeah.
life, whether it's in your family, move into it with a sense of just this can happen. but also there's a reasonability. So I like the differentiation
Mhm.
because I do think some people we get this bravery and recklessness, we get a little confused sometimes, and so I
Mhm.
really love the way that
Yeah,
you've
right.
articulated that, and it's a great way to think about it. And I
Mhm.
guess it goes back to what you said earlier. You suggested that bravery is a muscle that can be developed. So
Mhm.
so let's just say we go to the gym right now. We're going to go to the gym and we're going to do some reps and we're going to sort of strengthen our bravery muscles. So
Mhm.
if I'm a novice and I'm going to the gym for the first time, I don't want to work out too hard because I might
Mhm.
strain a pectoral muscle. Well, these aren't pectoral muscles anymore. These are significantly and serious man boobs. These are not pectoral muscles anymore. But if I work it too hard, I'm going to injure myself. So
Mhm.
if I want to do some brave reps and start
Mhm.
to grow this bravery muscle, where do I want to start if I'm
Yeah.
going into the gym to
Yeah.
work it out?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you three exercises. So let's use that analogy of going to the gym because I
Yeah,
I love it because it really is like a muscle.
yeah,
Um, and if we want to get strong, like if we wanted to be brave or we want to get strong, we wouldn't just go into the gym, try to lift 200 pounds and say, look, I'm not brave or I'm not strong. We got to go in there. We got to start with what we can do and then keep showing up. And then when we lift, it should hurt a little. It should be uncomfortable.
mm,
And then we should be sore the next day. So that's where sometimes the discomfort is, right? We got to like embrace that discomfort because that's where we're getting stronger and we're getting braver. So
mm,
really based on my research and this is all in the Bravery Effect the book, there's really three different exercises we can do. Kind of like when you go into the gym, you want to do like cardio and you want to do like strength training and maybe stretching. So think of it as like three areas that you want to build in your bravery fitness. The
mm,
first one is draws from cognitive psychology. We first have to win the battle in our mind.
mm,
So I spend a lot of time with my clients saying like first let's change your beliefs in terms of that you can do hard things, right? And that it's possible for you to achieve this goal that you have. So there's four different things that I do with my clients. I'll just use one example, right? So, I mean, the most simple example, let's say someone says, I am just not an entrepreneur. I could never start a business. It's just not me. Like I grew up
mm,
everyone worked for corporations. This is just what I do. If I hear that type of a mindset, I'm like, okay, we need to first work on the cognitive side. I call it a warrior mindset. 'Cause maybe it's the Marine in me, but
mm,
I have to kind of do a reframe on mindset because when you say mindset, some people start like rolling their eyes and going, oh gosh, here's all that positive, happy, clappy stuff. So I'm like, no, this is a warrior mindset. Warriors first believe they can attack the hill. So I would say we need to shift your belief system here. Like say the exact same statement, like I could never be an entrepreneur, but instead of saying that, just say, I'm not an entrepreneur yet. Just
huh,
use the word yet, or I'm not ready to take
uh-huh,
that step yet. When anyone uses the word yet, or go back to the gym analogy, I can't do pull ups. I can't do pull ups. What if I say I can't do pull ups yet?
mm,
What does it shift? It shifts like, well, it's possible. So, what we're trying to do is open the door slightly to a possibility. Because if you think it's possible and you realize it's going to be hard to get there, by the way, this is my new goal. I have a new trainer. I want to do pull ups. I'm 51 years old. I want to do pull-ups. This is my goal. Next time we talk, you'll have to say, Jill, how's it going?
how's it going?
I got some ways to go. So we work on mindset. So just the power of yet, which is growth mindset that comes from Carol Dweck's research
Hmm.
from Stanford. In addition to that, I spend a lot of time on our stress mindset. This
Mm,
is such an exciting emerging field. Oh, I get so excited talking about it. So if you believe that stress and encountering challenges is bad for you and you should avoid it at all costs to live your happiest, best life, then when you encounter stress and challenges, you will have a bad reaction to it.
hmm,
But if you believe that encountering stress on your path to that noble goal or encountering challenges is something that will make you stronger, it will be your identity that you overcame that it's your body preparing you to perform at its best. It creates focus. It is what makes you grow. If you believe that, then you have a positive response, both from a performance standpoint, but also physiologically. Like Leah Crum, uh, brilliant scientist, did this clever study with colleagues, including Sean Aker. He was in the study. They went into a company, high stress company, and I think they studied 400 people. Half the people got a message like, stress is horrible. It's going to kill you. Avoid it at all costs. which is what we hear on the news all the time. The
Yep.
other half was told stress is enhancing. It makes you focus. It helps you perform better and grow. And it can actually make you healthy if you've got the right, mindset on stress. The only thing that happened is 3 minute stress is bad or stress is good. And it was repeated, I think, 3 times a week for a couple of weeks. That's all. 3 minute intervention, 3 times a week for a couple of weeks. Then they followed these people. The
Hmm.
people that got the stress and enhancing mindset message and believed it, they performed better, statistically significant. They had higher levels of job satisfaction.
Hmm.
They also had better physiological response to stress, even including higher levels of DHEA, which is a hormone related to resilience. So like these are things that we're not teaching in the workplace. So the power of yet, that it's possible, it won't be hard. And it's gonna be hard. And if it's hard and you encounter stress, that's a good thing. So these are the mindset pieces. If you don't do this, then people are gonna go like, I'm gonna try something brave. I go to the gym, try to do 200, like, see, it didn't work. Like I see,
Yep.
I knew it wasn't gonna work. And this is too hard. And anytime anything doesn't go right and there's a failure, I'm just gonna walk away. So we need to win the battle in the mind first. So that's the first kind of like exercise. I also do like self-talk,
Yep.
how to conquer self-limiting beliefs. We don't have to listen to it. We need to talk to ourselves. So I do a lot of work on the cognitive side. Um, then we just talk about behavioral psychology. And we've already touched on this, but I teach people that if you're feeling nervous and scared to take a step, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Doesn't mean you're not supposed to take the step.
That's what you're supposed to feel.
That's what you're supposed to feel. And when you feel the fear, like, look at it as a sign. The invitation is what you said, the invitation to step forward. This is your moment. This
Mhm.
is your moment to be brave or to cower. What are you going to do? Right. And being brave. Now, we should break it into steps. So, according to Albert Bandura, who studied self efficacy, what he discovered in behavioral psychology is the only way that you build confidence is by taking a step first. So, people think like, I'm going to wait until I'm confident and then I'm going to take a step forward. He said, no, 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 it's backwards. So he said, when you take a step forward, when you don't feel ready, and then it actually goes okay, a little step forward, and then you take another step, that's what builds confidence. He had this famous study. People had this intense fear of snakes, phobia of snakes, paralyzing fear. And what he found is, he could give him pep talks and tell him snakes are wonderful creatures all day long, but that did not help people overcome the fear. What helped them is steps. Little steps, everyone uncomfortable, requiring some bravery, that gave people evidence that I'm doing this. So he made them look at a picture of snakes, then a video. Then snakes were in the room, on the far side of the room in an aquarium, and then closer. Then they came out. Then he handled them. Then they handled him. Little step by step. That's how you build bravery. Just like you start with maybe 50 pounds on the bar, and then 60, and then 70. So it's supposed to be step by step. You're not gonna have this eureka moment. Like, you don't just walk into the gym and then miraculously do 200 pounds. You got to think about taking the thing that you want to do and making it in steps. And Bandura discovered when you do that, you now have proof,
Mm.
evidence where you're like, I did that. And when you do, your self-confidence, you have pride in yourself and you're like, I did that. So confidence comes after the step. So that's all about brave action.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
what I find interesting. So these are muscles we're working out. Where we have a mental muscle now. We've got a cognitive. We've got a
Mhm.
behavior muscle. We can work out here, and we can take an action. What I find interesting about this is that what I really hear you telling me and you telling my listeners is it's one small brave action.
Mhm.
It's not one brave massive leap. It's one small brave action which then begets another, and somehow this works. And I want to go back to something you said earlier because I think it's interesting. You mentioned that, the one of the challenges we're not teaching this in business.
Mhm.
I would go back further than that. I think for me, I'm almost 60 now. I lied. I just turned 60.
Mm.
My wife's 65. My kids are in their 30s. So we have grandchildren. And I think part of the thing that I see is I don't think we're teaching our kids to be brave.
Mm.
I don't think but I don't teach it in school. And it's interesting because my daughter, my son and daughter-in-law live in the country, and my daughter-in-law was raised on a farm. We were raised in the city. She was raised on a farm, and
Oh, wow.
she was raised with this, climb up in the haystack, do what you want,
Grit.
jump off, do whatever, sort of mentality. And so her kids sort of, that's how she governs how they work. So they
Mhm.
climb trees, they do a bunch of things. And her caveat is, hey, as long as you feel generally safe, you do what you want. Now, as a grandparent, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's craziness. But you know what? I can see it's building a sense of bravery and resilience in them to step out in school or to step out and do things. And I find that fascinating. And I think
Mhm.
that's maybe one of the problems we have is that we're sort of programming bravery out of the
Yes.
psychology and the psyche of generation upon generation. And now we're sort of reaping the fruit of that in some ways.
Ah, yes, I so agree with that. I'm not an expert in child psychology, but I'm a parent. And I've been around my kids and all their friends' kids, and that has been my observation. But there are some people like Jonathan Haidt from NYU.
Hmm.
He lectured to us in when I was going to school at Penn, and he gave this analogy, and I loved it. So he basically talks about the coddling
Hmm.
of kids, causing kids to be more fragile and weaker,
Yeah.
which leads to their anxiety
Hmm.
and their lower states of mental health. So that is Jonathan Haidt and the statements that he's making, everything based on evidence. But I agree with what he's bringing to the world. And I think as a parent, there's times where you want to make your kids happy. You want to keep them safe. And if there's a problem at school, you want to go in and fix it for them. And then, oh my gosh, if they feel nervous about something, you want to do it for them. I remember when my girls, they were scared to like make a phone call because they're so used to their phones. I'm like, you're scared to make a phone call, like whatever. And we would make the phone call for them. And I finally had this moment where I'm like, no, like we were on vacation and they wanted to order room service. They were so excited for room service. I'm like, well, then order it. And they're like, no, I'm scared to make the phone call. And then they wanted us to do it. And I'm like, if you want room service, you got to call. And they were motivated to do it. So they called and they were terrified. I mean, just little things.
Yeah.
But then everywhere I went, I'm like, no, you call. Like, oh, I'm having a problem with this. I'm like, well, then call. Right. And this is just such a small little example, but so many of our kids are scared of going up and talking to people
Yeah.
or making phone calls. They're so disconnected. So I completely hear you. There's kind of a movement, right? It all started with um Hara, who her last name is escaping me. She's an editor at Psychology Today. And she wrote a book, I think in like the early 80s about our kids just like having all this caution tape around them and how
Mm.
we are doing them a disservice. So, yes, and it's a trend. Why
Mhm.
do we have the highest levels of anxiety and depression among kids? Because it's our fault. We're keeping in this little safe bubble and it's not making them happier.
Mm.
And again, I'm not an expert in kids. I'm an expert in positive psychology in adults, but if I
Yeah.
apply this to adults, um, for adults, sometimes we have a job and it's fine and life is okay. But if you want an extraordinary life, if you want a great life, you've got to be brave because you've got to get out of the rut. Like you're just doing the same thing forever. And if you're no longer inspired by it, we've got to make the move, but the move is going to be uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
So I,
Totally
I
agree.
completely agree with you. And I'm actually really interested in looking more into the science of that. I just want to be, careful. But when people have read my book,
Yeah.
The Bravery Effect, the number one thing people tell me is they're like, I'm buying this for my kids. Like my
Mhm.
teenagers or my young kids in their 20s are like, they need to hear that because it's written as a parable, which their kids will probably read. It's a
Yeah.
story, but it really teaches them how they can be brave.
So let me tuck into that for a second because I find your choice of literary genre or the mechanism in which you're communicating this story, this because parables is a very ancient way of relating to wisdom and ideas.
Mhm.
So let's just tuck into that for a second because I find that fascinating. So
Mm.
why the choice
Mm.
of a parable
Yeah.
for the sake of communicating this wonderful idea
Mhm.
to to us at this time?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to answer and then I want you to add to it because our first discussion, like, so much about like the history of parables. So I want to learn from you. But the reason I chose it is, I work with businesses right? I go in and I help with culture, I help with leadership development, and I have found that some of the most effective books that I make my clients read, like as part of their leadership development, are books that are parables. Like I love The 1 Minute Manager,
Mm,
a classic. Ken Blanchard. He's my mentor. He wrote the foreword to my book. It's just brilliant. It's such a simple story. It doesn't take long to read, and you will never forget that I just need to like set clear expectation. It only takes a minute. And then I need to give feedback. It only takes a minute. Like it's such a compelling story and it sticks. It works. Also, Len Cioni, I love his book, The Five
mm,
Dysfunctions of a Team, because it
mhm,
sticks. So I thought, I'm like, if I really want this message to stick, stories stick.
mhm,
Now I'm a geek. You can tell I'm a geek because I cite all the science. Like I have that logical mind. I love stories, but I also like the science. But so many books in the business world are packed full of all the evidence and the science, but even when I buy the books and I'm a scientific geek, I I don't read the whole book
yeah.
because I just kind of like I halfway through and then I'm like, I skim through the rest. So I actually wanted people to read the whole story. I wanted them to pass it along to give to somebody else. And what I really care about, my motivation is I just want people to stop playing it safe to live a small life where they're not as happy as they could be. That's my ultimate motivation. I'm hoping this book can be something that, gets passed along.
Mm. So I mean, I mean, I love the fact that you've crafted this in this parable idea. First of all, you just talked about passing something along. Of course, our cultures, ancient cultures for sure, and even in North America, our cultures were founded on being storytelling cultures. We are a
Yep.
humans are storytellers by nature, and so narrative and storytelling is the major communication mechanism
Mm.
probably for thousands and thousands, if not millennia of years. And so I think that's really wonderful part of it. As you mentioned, you and I chatted about it. I mean, this idea of parable is interesting because when we think of parables, I mean, the word comes from a Greek derivative, which literally means it has to do at its root, the casting of dice alongside each other. And a parable by nature is the casting alongside of a natural story, a truth. And so they get cast together, which is interesting because I think this is where great teachers use parabolic ideas. They take these stories and they weave in this narrative. I think the other thing it does from a mental and intellectual perspective is we start suspending the way we look at something. It's like when I go with my when I went with my kids years ago, or I'll go to my grandkids to a Disney movie. And I'm watching a movie and mice are talking. And my 60-year-old scientific mind isn't saying, hold on a second, mice can't talk. No, I'm so captivated in the story
Mhm.
that all of a sudden what happens is this wisdom or truth or the narrative they're
Mhm.
trying to feed me gets pulled in. And this
Mm.
is the great oratory wisdom of people like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien and
Mhm.
all of these people, part of what was a group called the Inklings at one point, who had this idea that they would take all these wonderful ideas and they put them in these fairy tales and stories because they recognized that if they did that, they would have a presence and a power and they
Mhm.
would pull people in and teach them things in sneaky, sticky
Yes.
ways.
Sneaky
And
and sticky, I like it.
yeah, so you are crafting a sneaky and sticky way to
Yes.
communicate in taking a parabolic understanding, and I find it fascinating. I will say, when I wrote my book, I wished I would have done that. I wasn't a
Mhm.
good enough writer to figure that out at the time. I will tell you that every time I sent a chapter to my editor, she would say, "Stop telling me. Start showing me in a story." And I go, "Okay, okay, I
Mm.
get a story." I was weak. I did a story here, I did a story there, but I love the fact that you've taken a story now and you've woven this wisdom in it. I think again, it's sneaky, it's sticky, and it allow people to start to see it in a different way. And so I think it's a brilliant way to craft the narrative of this
Yeah.
message. And so, listen,
Mhm.
let's bring this conversation to sort of a landing here because first of all, I'll give you a chance to let people know how they can find you if they
Mhm.
want to get
Yeah.
you engaged with their business in life. Find the book, obviously, but so here's the question I want to think about here. So if people really understand the essence of the story they're going to read, the most hopeful outcome for them,
Mm.
if they were writing you a letter a year from now and saying, "I
Yes.
read your story and this is what happened," what would delight your
Mm.
soul
Yeah.
to hear, "And this is what
Mhm.
happened"?
What a great question. The reason why I name my book The Bravery Effect is exactly what we're going to talk about here. Like, why? What is the promise of bravery? When I go into organizations, I emphasize you're going to achieve more results faster. You're going to move the bottom line. People are going to be more successful. They're going to like work better. All those are all very important things for businesses. But here is the thing that I have not told you yet. The most exciting part of bravery is when people learn to be brave and to move toward that meaningful, noble goal of whatever it is for them, and they go through the arduous path to achieve it. It's not about getting the mountaintop. It's not about achieving it. That's not the most beautiful part of bravery. It's nice to accomplish it, but it's who you become on the journey.
Mm,
It transforms the person to have a higher level of self-efficacy, of pride. That is the beauty, and that is why I'm on a mission to talk about this. It is, yes, I drive results in businesses. Of course, that's why businesses pay me money to come in and speak and teach this stuff. But what I care about most, and this is the positive psychologist in me, is I want people to live their best life, have the highest quality of life satisfaction. I want people to be at the end of life and look back and say, I did everything I dreamed of doing.
mm,
I never wanted to do something and just let fear hold me back. So yeah, that is the promise of bravery is, I've experienced it. Like when I was 18 years old, I got in a plane. I was living in Minnesota, not far from Canada. And I got in a plane, I headed to San Diego with a dream to become a United States Marine.
hmm,
It was not an easy path. There were not a lot of people who look like me that want to become a Marine. In fact, I was just looking, I'm on a local news segment coming up and they wanted pictures of me as a Marine. And I looked at my commissioning photos and I was the only woman there. And I didn't look like any of the other Marines. I had such a challenging path to get there. But what I love, I actually I feel lucky that I had such a hard path because the growth I experienced by getting through the adversity is what made me who I am today, right? So when you choose this meaningful, noble goal, and you have to go on that path with ups and downs, and you overcome the adversity, you come out the other side a changed person. It's the
mm,
hero's journey that we hear about all the time. But you literally it, and then when you get to that mountaintop of achieving the goal, you're like, I am unstoppable. I can do anything I set my mind to. And then you set the next thing. So that is the promise of bravery. And no one's talking about it. Everyone's talking about just if anything stresses you out or you feel anxious about anything, then you should run the other way. It is not the truth of what we know in psychology. If you want something and you're scared, you need to look at that as a beacon to move toward it. And it will be scary and it will be hard, but that will create your best life. That is the
ah,
promise of
it's
bravery.
powerful. So let me ask you, if people wanna hunt you down and find you, what's the best way to find you, and where's the best place for
Mm.
them to hunt down your book?
Um, Please go to my website. It's jillschulman.com. So my first name is hard to spell, Jill. Last name Schulman, SCHULMAN.com. If you go to my website, there's a free bravery assessment. I give a lot of things for free. So there's a free bravery assessment. Once you take the assessment and you know what your bravery score is, you get a free action guide. There's also other free resources like a book discussion guide. A lot of my friends are having their families read it, like they're younger, so all those freebies for you. So my website's a great place to go. And if you sign up for my newsletter, I try to give like evidence-based tips on a regular basis. So that's just my site. But I'm on LinkedIn because I work mainly with businesses. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. So if you just type in Jill Schulman Bravery, you'll see me on all those platforms. But I make a promise to anyone who follows me. So whatever platform are you on? What do you want? Are you on Facebook? Are you on Instagram? Please follow me because you need to bathe yourself in the messages that are going to help you become your best self.
Mm,
And I'm one of those people. So I want people to follow me because I'm going to give you 5 days a week as my commitment. I'm going to give you little messages to nudge you toward taking the brave action versus cowering. So my job is to
Mm.
encourage you. If you look at the root word is encourage means to put courage into you.
Mhm.
So I do that for myself. Like I'm always trying to surround myself. Like my morning routine is I read Stoic philosophy because that inspires me to do the hard thing. So that's how you can find me on any social media. Go to my website, download the free resources, and you can buy my book anywhere books are sold. You just Amazon, I mean anywhere, Barnes and Noble, anywhere.
There you go. The Bravery Effect is the book name. You can hunt Jill down. So I want to finish with two things I'm just that are rolling around in my head from talking. So the one thing I think that's so wonderfully brilliant about this, and the thing that's really sticking in my head is, and this is for my listeners who maybe are part of maybe they're in business or maybe they work in an organization, or maybe even you think about this as you want your community to become braver. Here's part of what I'm hearing you say, Jill, is, and this is really important to me. Organizations don't become braver, communities don't become braver, businesses don't become braver, families don't become braver, people do. And brave people make brave communities and cities and
Mm, yes.
worlds and nations and government and businesses. That's the equation. Bravery is a personal decision. It is not an
Yes.
organizational mandate. And so if you're looking for your organization to become braver, I think you're missing the point here. It's about you becoming braver. And so my challenge to you listeners is, what's your next brave step? Whatever
Mm,
that is. What is your next brave step towards something that is got a noble purpose for the positive benefit of yourself and others? And how will you step into that more brave expression of yourself? And if we all did that, what would our world look like? What would our community look like? What would our families look like? What would our businesses look like?
so true.
That to me is the thing that's really resonating. And so, and at the end of the day, I think the bottom line for me in all this is bravery isn't just optional. As you're describing it, it's oxygen.
It is.
Without it, our lives, our leadership, our legacies are going to suffocate.
Mm,
With it, we're going to breathe deeper. We're going to risk greater. We're going to live in braver and louder ways. So my challenge to you listeners is, don't just listen to this conversation. That would be a shame. Let
mhm.
it provoke you towards brave action, and then go out and practice the kind of bravery that makes you unforgettable, unshakable, uncommodified for the positive benefit of you and others. That's my
Amen.
challenge. Thanks for listening in. Cheers. Have a great day.